guys. I'm used to the camera being on this side, but we swapped it out today. What's going on, guys? It's another episode of the K and A podcast. I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember what episode this is.
Episode 14, I think we're up to.
14?
14, yeah.
No new current events to bring up today. So we're just gonna get right into this. Today we got a special guest today. Adrian, would you like to introduce them?
Greg, how you doing, man?
Doing good, brother. How are you?
Doing very well.
All right.
You want to tell the people a little bit about yourself?
What you do, who you are, your name, your age, your social, if you wanna.
Nah, you get none of that. All right. My name is Greg. Greg, I'll give you my last name. Greg. I'm Adrian's cousin by marriage. I married his cousin. I'm old enough to talk about this topic today. I've been in customer service for about 35 years, and I've been in management, all levels of management, for about 30 years. Throughout my career in customer service, and especially my job that I've been on for 22 years now, there's certain things as far as the youth is concerned when it comes to interviewing that I feel like, you know, the topics that we're going to discuss today would help them to be able to properly interview and have better chances and opportunities to get that job than they would have if they didn't research and do the things that we're going to talk about. And so this is to benefit them. There are many times where I've interviewed and maybe I could have made that decision, but there were others around me that they were also part of that decision making. So I couldn't just say, okay, let's give this guy a chance. And it was 99% not preparing yourself for the job. So we're going to talk about preparation for an interview to get your foot in the door. You never get a second chance to make a first impression.
So what do you do now? What's your current position?
Right now I'm a relationship manager. On my job, I started out in customer service. When I got there, the first thing I did was I started researching all the different positions within the organization. So corporate office, so everything was in-house: finance, product planning, product design, accounting, product development. It was all there. So the first thing I did was I looked and I'm like, what would I like to do next before I was even doing what I was doing, and what can I do to be on that next level? Because I researched the company and I knew the growth was there before I even started working. So in customer service, I did what I had to do to move to the next level, which was considered an expediter. And I did what I had to do to get to the next level within that position, which was senior coordinator. And I did what I had to do to get to the next level of supervisor, and then senior supervisor, and then manager, and then eventually relationship manager. So as a relationship manager, I'm pretty much the problem solver for my department. Any issues going on with our accounts within the customer service department, and even resolving issues within other departments in the organization, building relationships so that when you need something from them, they'd be happy to do it for you, and vice versa. So, you know, building good relationships is also part of it. But today's topic is going to be just how to properly prepare yourself for the interview to get the job.
What do you think is like the beginning steps to?
The beginning steps is research. You know, you're looking for a job, and what you want to do is you want to, if it's a company you're really interested in, whether you think you're going to stay there for a while, research. Do a little research about the company. See if this is what you really want. You know, Glassdoor is a good website you can go on to research an organization to find out about their turnaround rate. You know, what are issues employees are having with the organization. You actually see firsthand information that the ex-employees, even employees that are working there, have input. And it will just give you an idea of what type of organization you're interviewing for. And then you want to research company history. How long that company's been in business, what are the different departments, just things like that you can bring up. Because, you know, there's a strong possibility that you'll be asked questions during or even after the interview. And the more probability of you showing them that you've researched, it lets them feel like wow, this guy really cares about the job, and wow, he really did research that. He knew that the company was established in such and such, or he knew that they have other branches, or he knew that they used to be in Texas but they moved to New Jersey or New York or the tri-state area. So researching you know, the organization is a good start. Believe it or not, how to properly present yourself, you know, when you go on an interview. You know, unless you're going for an interview, you know, to sweep floors, and even if you're going on an interview to be a janitor, you want to look presentable. You know, you don't necessarily have to wear a three-piece suit to interview for a job mopping floors, but again, you never get a second chance to make a first impression, so you want to clean yourself up for the interview. You can't just say, all right, well, if they hire me, they hire me. This is me. You know, yeah, you have your quality, your inner qualities that can't be changed, but there's some things about you that you can change up a little bit so that you could get your foot in the door, so you can get your 15 minutes of fame. You know, 15 minutes of fame is, all right, you got here, you know, however you got here. People may think that you knew somebody, whatever the case may be, but once you get in the door, now you have to prove your worth. So you at least want to get to that point where you can prove your worth. So,
do you believe in like faking it till you make it then? In that kind of sense?
I do. I do believe that you can fake it till you make it, but only to a certain point. You know, you get to a certain point, you have to, you know, unless, it's rare, but it does happen, unless, you know, the boss just likes you and he's completely overlooking you for whatever reason. You know, he likes you, you're his cousin, you go drink with him after work, because that happens too. You can't fake it till you make it. It's not necessarily a bad thing, as long as when it's time to make it, you do what you have to do to make it. You know, faking it till you make it. You after work, Monday through Friday, from 5 to midnight, and on the weekends, you might wear a hoodie and, you know, you rocking your Timbs or whatever it is. That's fine, but you're not going to go to a job that, let's say in an office, and you show up like that, or you show up in, you know, a T-shirt that's got logos on it, whatever the case may be. So to a certain degree, that's kind of faking it till you're making it. You know, put a nice shirt on, something that you might not necessarily wear, but you might not wear that shirt on the job. You know, the job might have a polo shirt with a logo on it, you know, Kinko's or whatever the case may be, Staples. But you still want to, you know, clean yourself up and look presentable. So that's all part of faking it till you make it. So I do believe to a certain degree, you know, the laws of nature, just, you can't fake it but for so long. You know, faking has a statute of limitation. And then you have to, you know, sink or swim. And I've seen that happen too.
Does this mostly depend on like the type of job? Because, for example,
Yes.
Starbucks.
Yes.
I went into the interview. I think I had a hoodie and a fitted cap on.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I was fine.
Are you working at Starbucks now?
I still am.
Okay.
I've been there for what, like 2 years, I think?
Okay.
Somewhere around there. But in your opinion, would you think that that's an appropriate way for me to show up to that interview because of the...
In my honest opinion, and I'm going to say no, and it's not a hard no, like you did the wrong thing. You know, obviously it was okay. But I want to ask you, do you think you would have had a better chance? Let's say there was a guy that looked exactly like you, your you know, your alter ego, you know, Suave with the shirt and you with the hoodie. And you guys both said the exact same thing. Who do you think they would have hired at that moment if they had to make a decision?
Probably my alter ego.
And it's also unfortunate sometimes that you get judged like that. So that's another thing. I'm not saying it's right. You know, I think that I have the ability to interview people and ask the right questions. And when I see somebody being nervous, I have a way of kind of like getting them to not be so nervous that they can answer the questions. It's not for me, but it's for the other people around me, because I'm trying to help you out if I feel like you're a good candidate. I've seen people dressed up, and as soon as they open their mouth, no. So that's a whole nother thing. We're talking about, you know, present yourself. So I'm not saying it's necessarily right, and I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do, you know. And also, when you're young, you know, you're not looking for you know, you're not going to work at Starbucks for the rest of your life, you know, unless you go there and you want to be a manager and then branch manager. Other than that, you know, it's just a job that you're looking for some money in your pocket, and also it's teaching you how to be responsible. So I'm not saying that it's the wrong thing, but I brought up the alter ego as an example, you know, or your sister. Sister brings home the same dude. One guy's got the hoodie on, you know, and I know your mom and I know your pops, and the other guy's dressed nice. You know, which one do you think your dad's gonna be like, I don't ever want him in this house again?
The dude with the hoodie.
And he might be a nice guy. This guy might, you know, he might own his own company, might, you know, you don't know, but you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And I will admit that it is unfortunate, but it's a fact of life. Not everything in life is fair. And you have to mentally prepare yourself for that too, because when something happens that's not fair, you can deal with it. Failing builds character. Not winning builds character. It makes you stronger. If you're younger and everything's going your way. Let's say your parents are just helping you out. Everything's going your way. You're getting everything you want. Everybody likes you, and it's time to leave the nest and fly on your own. A lot of people go to college and they go away, and life is different. You're not around your surroundings, your people. You're in another state with different people, different environment, and you may get treated completely. You might have been the most popular kid in school, and now you're like the most least popular kid in school. They're treating you like a freshman in high school. Prepare yourself for life, for things to come. So don't necessarily, if you don't get the job, don't sulk and be like, forget this. I ain't looking for a job, or forget them. What did I not do? Just like relationships, when you leave a relationship, sometimes you have to stop and say, all right, this person did me wrong and did what they did. There's nothing I can do about that, but what can I do next time to be a better person? I might have been quick to argue about things that this person says, but I realized that it led down a different road. I might meet a nicer person than that, but I still don't want to argue as much as I did. So you start evaluating yourself and saying, what can I do to be a better person for the next person or for yourself? Because, making another person happy is also making yourself happy, depending.
There's a lot of people in the world that necessarily don't think the way you do, in the terms of they felt like they did everything right and they still didn't get their way. What do you have to say to people like that?
Life is not fair. Life is not fair. You don't get everything you want, and that's what I'm talking about too. When you get knocked down, it's not always your fault. You playing basketball and the coach, the referee missed the play. He missed a bad pass or something. He counted something wrong on your end when it's down to the buzzer. It's 5 seconds left. The other team did something that the ref missed, and it messed you up, and it's not fair. And when you're younger, we jump up and down and we scream, and it's not fair, but it's not fair. But what are you gonna do? You're gonna quit the game. You're gonna quit life. You're gonna walk around being bitter because of it. No, you have, it's your God-given right, or whatever you worship, given right to feel bad, to sulk. But I think that you should only give yourself a certain amount of time to feel bad about what's going on, and then you have to get back up on the horse. And before you get on the horse, reevaluate yourself. That's part of life. You go left, this is what's going on. You go right, this is what's going on. You go left enough, you start realizing that maybe I need to stop at the crossroad and read the signs first. And instead of running left, maybe I need to walk right. So no, life is not fair, and sometimes things are going to happen that are just not fair. But what are you gonna do?
Just keep moving forward.
Yeah. You're gonna go around, just being mean to everybody. No, you have to pick yourself up and keep moving forward, and that's it. And when you look back, the good part is when you get older, or you become more established, or whatever, you look back, and sometimes you could laugh at, the failures or the falls, or you could be like, wow, if I can think of so many things in my life that happened to me that weren't good, that prepared me for something better. And if I didn't go through this, I wouldn't have been ready for something better to come. Sometimes you lose money to appreciate money. I think sometimes the more, unless you just have that smarts, some of the most successful people are people that had money and lost it, or people who failed, and then they said, all right, then I have to find another way to do this, and then you become very successful. I guarantee you, most of the people you talk to that are successful, when you say, have you always been successful? They're going to laugh. They're going to be like, heck no. Well, tell me about that. And as you listen to them and they listen to themselves, you realize like that stuff made you stronger. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Not always. It's like, life is not always fair. What doesn't kill you doesn't always make you stronger. But, you strengthen yourself.
What I really like is, you ever seen this guy on TikTok? He'll walk up to people with like nice cars, or like they got jewelry on and stuff like that. I'll be like, hey, how you doing?
What do you do for a living?
Yeah, what do you do for a living? Or he'll be like, you look like a very successful man. Have you ever been broke before? He'll be like, yeah, of course. And they'll go into their story and like what they did to get to the point where they are. And it's good to see that not everyone starts at the top. Because there's a lot of people that start at the top and just keep pushing to the top.
Also, is another thing is I heard this from an artist. 50 Cent said it. There's actually a clip from when he first came out. And he said, my grandfather told me, you'll be as successful as the people around, as the information the people around you give to you. Or you'll be as successful as the people you associate yourself with. So if you're hanging around people who can't offer you anything, and I don't mean financial advice, a good friend, stop you from doing something that's wrong. You know, if you've been arguing with your mom, your dad, your girl, and you go to them and you're pissed off, like, all right, well, you know, you my boy, but, you know, your mom did ask you to clean your room, bro, 8 times. And now they finally got mad at you, and now you're upset. You're rightfully upset because of the way they spoke to you, but why don't you just do what they asked you to do the first time? You know, people, surround yourself with people that you can benefit from. And I don't mean use, but information. You know, you got a buddy with a nice car, you know, instead of being jealous, like, find out what he did, you know, what kind of work he does, you know, what kind of, you know somebody who does Bitcoin, you know, find out, you know, what are the right coins to purchase? How do you mine coins? Just different things like that. Surrounding yourself with people that can benefit you in knowledge and information, you know, emotional, mental support. In life, things are placed in your way in life that benefit you. Sometimes being around bad people, being around negative people, it benefits you because it makes you stronger. And I guarantee you, as you guys get older, you're going to meet people in life that you can identify with from somebody when you were younger. Oh man, that dude acts like that guy that I remembered in high school. You know, he was an asshole. He acts just like him. I'm not saying don't talk to him, but just, you know, keep your third eye and just be like, all right, well, I know he acts like him. So if I do the exact same thing, if I move the same way I did when I was that I'm around him when I did with the other guy, it's gonna end the same way.
You already know the solution because you already dealt with it.
Exactly. You know, it's like memory muscle. You remember things that happen. You know, you make a right at the light and there's a car always speeding. You're gonna slow down at that light. Or you're gonna slow down at that stop sign. That's just the way it is. Unless you're suicidal. You know, don't kamikaze yourself. Don't you know, crash the plane. So yeah. And
the same thing with interviews. Same thing in regards to if you already failed one, you know what you did wrong.
Yes. You
already know how to go into the next one. You know how to approach an interview. You know the questions that they're going to ask, or just similar questions. And in regards to if it's in that field as well.
Go online and research interview questions. You don't have to know the list of questions they're going to ask you, but go online and just sit there. You can sit there watching videos, music videos, or whatever. Sit there and just dedicate. You know you have a job interview on Wednesday. Monday, dedicate a half an hour. And a half an hour to an hour of your time, you can find mad interview questions. Write them down and just remember them. You sit there and you just look at them. If you got 20 interview questions in front of you that are possibilities, read it 5 times. Go back to it again. They say, I think you do something 3 to 4 times for it to become a habit. And you just start automatically remembering it. So research, do some interview questions. They might not ask you everything, but there's something that might come up. Out of 10 questions, if 5 of them were ones that they asked, you're 5 questions ahead of the game, you know? And that's it. And then no matter where you go to interview, just treat it like it's important. You might be like, man, I'm going down there. I'm going to the bodega and they're going to interview me to sweep the floors or whatever. Then practice for life, you know, treat it serious. You know what I mean? I remember when I was young, was moving out of one apartment because they sold the house, so I had to find another place to live. And so I saw an apartment. I called it up, and they were like, okay, you know, come down on Friday or whatever, and we want to talk to you. And, you know, and they gave me an application. They emailed me an application, and it was just so simple. It was a private-owned home, an apartment. So it was a basic application with just some basic information. So I really wanted that apartment, and I really needed it. So you know what I did? I printed my resume. I actually went on the computer and I documented the things that I do on my job. I went and I documented my past 2 places that I've lived. I found references on my own, and when I showed up, it was just an apartment, but I had a nice shirt on, I had some slacks on, because you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And I said to myself, I want the probability of me getting this apartment, when I walk away, I want to feel like I really, really have a good chance. I don't want to get back in my car and be like, if they call me, they call me. You know, I need a place to live. And when I gave him the folder and he saw all the information and documents that I gave him, no lie, my interview was like 11 o'clock. By like 4 o'clock, he's like, well, me and my wife want you to move in. You know, how soon can you come up with your security or whatever? And I'm like, I'll bring it to you right now if you need it. You know what I mean? And he's like, I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to change my application around. You know, and I'm like, it won't be for my apartment because I'm going to be living here forever. Yeah, but, you know, I prepared myself, you know, for that. So, you know, preparation is key for anything. You know, you can research how to talk to your parents. Like, I feel like a lot of the issues that kids have with their parents, if you just, you know, listening is really, really important. On my job as a relationship manager, the first thing I do when I have an angry account is I listen to what they have to say. I don't cut them off, because it's like boxing. You know, the other guy could be better than you. So what you do is you assess him, you watch his moves, and he might be tired after the third round. And now you let loose. We've seen fights that you're like, wow, this guy, you thought he wasn't doing nothing. Yo, hit him. Yo, he's tiring the other guy out, and he's watching him do the same move over and over and over and over and over again. So your parents kicking your door, boom, and it's the same thing. You know, clean this goddamn room, or, you know, take these paper plates out of here. I find cups under your bed. So put it in the garbage. Mm-hmm. You know, like do what you got to do. You know, and it's the nature of the beast. But just, you know, try to stay one step ahead of the game. You know, you could be a lousy kid. You know, you could be lousy in the streets, but at home, your mom and dad could think, oh my God, Adrian's the best son, because, like, I could argue, or I could just, you know, put this plate in the garbage when I'm done eating, because I already know mom's gonna come in here. Or you could be like, you in here again? You wrong, and she's right. That's her house. That's their house. You just a guest, son. So, yes, that's the way I feel about that. I don't want to sit here and seem like I'm bashing the youth, because as you guys can see with the camera, you know, I'm a little older. So I will say there is something that I do envy about the younger generation. Is we came up, you know, your dad was like, you know, you work till you die, and you work hard, and a hardworking man, when you come home and you got callus on your hand, that's a real man, you know, and that's the way you come up. And you see somebody and you know, they're using their brain more than their brawn, and you're like, look at that chump right there. No, as you get older, you realize, I don't want to work this hard. You work smarter, not harder. Young people will go to a job and they'll realize right away, this is not for me. And next thing you know, John put his 2 weeks notice in, you know, and he found another job, and, you know, and then you follow John's path after, and you realize, like, John's been going to 2 or 3 jobs, and then next thing you know, he's got that job. Because when you're young, you know, time, you're going to realize when you get older, time is the most precious gift, and it's one of the most important things, and time is the only thing you can't get time back. So when you're younger, you have that, you don't care, you're like, I'll leave this place. But when you're older, you're like, oh man, I got these bills to pay, and I you know, and then you put up with a lot of stuff, you take a lot of stuff, like your dad said, you know, my boss and this and that, and you don't have to. So I will say that the youth, they're not afraid to take that chance, where, you know, older generation, we feel that way. And I don't necessarily think that is right. You know, you don't have to work so hard. You work smarter, not harder. So I will give you guys that.
Do you feel like...
Yeah.
My bad, I didn't want to cut you off.
No, I do think you should put your 2 weeks notice in. No, I've had people just not show up to work. You know what I mean? And stop getting your mamas to call the job and say you sick. You're a grown-ass man, or you're a grown woman. If you don't want to go to work today, make the call yourself, because it looks really bad on you and you don't even realize it, and you lose opportunities at work because of something else that's not fair. Mm-hmm. Things that go on behind the scene that you have no control over. They're talking about you, they're making decisions on you that you don't know about. So do as much as you can to eliminate that.
So we have research, we have presentation. What would be the next step you would need when it comes to the interview? Research,
presentation. Part of the interview process too is I'm going to say social skills. Mm-hmm. How do social skills play into this? You might have gone to college and have a degree in something that you can't even pronounce, And when you read the resume, you're like, wow, I can't wait to interview this person. This is the person that we really need. And when they get in front of you, they have no idea how to communicate to you because they don't really have the social skills. You know, social skills, it's not something that's taught. It's something that you learn, you know, playing outside, being around friends. Not, let's say you're a kid that you grew up and all you did was sit in your basement and play video games, and you're smart. You went to school, you didn't really talk to anybody, you didn't join any organizations, you made no friends. Fine, that's your right. But now when it's time to interview, you just come off as a little weird sometimes. Or not necessarily weird, but you don't have social skills. Meanwhile, you have a guy that prepared himself. He has the social skills. You know, you can talk to him. So there it is. Never get a second chance to make a first impression. When it comes down to a decision, all right, the guy that on paper, he looked like this, or the guy that really needs a break, he really needs a job, and he showed, I could tell this guy's going to come in here and he's going to grind it out. You know, social skills. You know, that's important too, and that's something I see a lack of in you know, in younger people. Like, so also get your interview questions and find somebody to practice interview with, so you can like get used to talking to somebody and get used to interviewing and being asked questions. So not, you know, if you have the resources, don't just go online and look up the questions, but find a buddy, a friend, you know, your girl, your wife, or whatever, and just ask them if they could take a few moments to kind of like practice interview with you, because it does help.
Yeah, because we're so used to just being behind the phone and texting somebody that we don't even know how to communicate.
Well, that's what I'm talking about too, with social skills, because, you know, when I was younger, we didn't have the technology. I won't name the technology we didn't have because it's everything. And I'll sound older, but we didn't have, you know, the technology that there is today. And you remembered everybody's phone numbers because you had to. You know what I mean? You talked on the phone, like you actually picked up the phone, you called people, and you guys had conversations because you couldn't go on social media and see what was going on. So you had to find out, you know, tell a friend, you know, telephone, tell a friend. And that all teaches social skills. We went outside and we met our friends in the street and we played and we did, you know, whatever we did. And you had to be home before the street light came on or before dusk. But it taught you social skills. Another goal in life is you want to feel like if somebody threw you out of an airplane with a parachute, you want to be able to land anywhere in the world. And, you know, as long as they speak the language, you would be able to adapt and blend in. So learn how to adapt yourself. Don't be like, oh, you know, hanging around this type of people or that people I ain't hanging around. Like, learn how to adapt yourself. Somebody takes you to an event or a party. Let's say your girl says, I want to bring you to our Christmas party at the job. Now you're at the job and you're around these people in suits and they're talking this and they're talking that, and you're in the corner. You don't want to be like, oh man, I'm not associated with them cornballs. No, you want to be able to, you know, have a conversation. And it's almost an accomplishment, believe it or not. When you go home, you're like, wow, I was talking to them and I was engaging in conversation and I was talking about things that I never talked about before. So social skills is really, really important, you know. It's all right to stay in the basement and play video games, guys, you know, but like get out the house sometimes, you know, walk around your neighborhood. You know, we text a lot, you know, like just communicate with people. You know, you can, I've known people that say, oh, I went on a date with this guy and in text, it was great. Or this girl, then when you went on your first date, they didn't know what to say, because now I'm in front of you and I don't know what to say. Because if I text you, I could take a minute to come up with my answer. I can even ask a friend, yo, I just go, what should I say to her? But now she's in front of you, you know. So you know, you're the good-looking dude that she don't like because you don't have nothing to say. And, you know, the guy that's, you know, half of what you are, you know, we called it a mouthpiece back then. He got a mouthpiece. He knows exactly what to say because he has social skills. He took your girl. What you gonna do? So, yes, social skills.
So how do you feel about the effects of COVID now in regards to social skills?
I think that COVID has changed the dynamics dramatically, and if it does go back to the way it used to be, it's going to be a long time, because I definitely saw the shift in COVID. I was in the grocery store the other day, and I was having a conversation with somebody that I didn't know. We were waiting to get our, you know, cheese cut, and they were like, you know, the groceries were at a certain level, and when COVID happened, they went up because of import, export, whatever the case may be, and now things are back the way they were. But prices haven't gone down because they see that they can get away with it. The food corporations are making the money, and nobody's sanctioning this to make the prices go down. So yeah, it's important.
I just think that when we, in school wise at least, because
Yes.
that's the biggest example I could give that I experienced, was when we changed over to Zoom.
Yeah.
And it took away that social aspect of just being in front of each other and just
Yeah.
looking at a screen. And once we went back to school, it was a huge shift. It was like teacher would ask a question, no one's raising their hand. And I'll be honest, I didn't even raise my hand because it's
Yeah.
like I don't want to talk if no one else is talking.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's hard to be in that type of situation where you feel like you have to be the person to initiate everything.
Yes.
And I'll be honest, I didn't want to be that person. And I don't think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I feel like sometimes you just have to force yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You can sit back and let everybody else ask the questions, and if they're giving the answers that can help you, if you don't know it, you need to be writing it down and remembering it, because this is all things that can help you. But sometimes, not sometimes, in life, there are times where you have no choice but to push yourself, because now you're backed into a corner. So start learning how to push yourself and challenge yourself earlier, you know. Out of all, I've asked questions in school and I was wrong. I've been in board meetings, you know, and asked questions or spoke about a topic or gave my opinion about something that got shot down by the director or the CEO, you know, respectfully shot down or respectfully ignored. But it wasn't me. I might have saw him ignore this guy last week or this guy last week, you know. Like, don't let that stop you. So you have to push yourself. I used to be really, really shy, and I would be that kid. I didn't want to sit in the front. I would want to sit in the back. I didn't want to ask the questions because I was nervous about being wrong. You know, like I didn't care about being right, but I was nervous about being wrong. I cared more about being wrong than I cared about being right. You know, and then it got to a point where I had no choice but to start stepping up or be that kid in the basement that never gets a job because he doesn't know how to talk, or he doesn't know how to, like, when he's asked questions that nobody's ever really challenged him before, you know, he gets nervous. So push yourself to you know, raise your hand. Ask, you know, even if you think, you know, you might be wrong, well, as if now it's 50-50. Hey, you might be right. And as long as you answer the question the right way, you know, your teacher's going to respectfully say, you know, that's not the right answer, but I really appreciate that. Or half of what you said is right. You know, now who knows the other half? You know, don't let that knock you down. Listen and find out what the other half is. So push yourself, you know.
Yeah.
Don't wait until it's I'm not going to say too late, but don't wait until you're forced to push yourself, because then you're going to be nervous and you might say the wrong thing. Start early. Push yourself.
I was gonna ask
You crawled when you were a baby. You walking now. Push yourself.
I was gonna ask you, did somebody, when you went in for your first interview, did somebody walk you through it, be like, this is what you do, this is how you dress, this is the kind of things that you do once you walk in through the door? Or did you develop that through failure? Like, missed?
No. Nobody taught me. I have to say, I'm sitting here and I am 80% a product of me, because, you know, my life, I grew up down south, and circumstances of life, I came up north, and I had to pretty much hit the ground running as a kid. And so these are all things, everything that I'm speaking about is life experience. So no, when I went on my first interviews, I remember I interviewed at this place that it's no longer in business anymore, but the guy told me at that time, people don't wear ties anymore. But at that time, I had a nice shirt on, whatever. And he actually told me, he was like, going forward, when you interview with an organization or even interview here, you should wear a tie. Because at that time, tie was a proper, you know, thing to do when you interview. And he told me, like, he basically told me, you're not dressed right for this job. You know, you might look good on paper, but you're not getting the job because I don't like the way you present yourself today. You know, so, you know, prepare yourself. And no, I didn't. Like, a lot of the stuff I had to learn, but I don't want to hoard the knowledge. I want to pass the knowledge on. And I remember interviewing, remote interviewing. Once COVID happened, everything was remote. This kid was applying just for a customer service position. And when we turned the camera on, he was sitting on his bed in his bedroom. And in the background was all his team jerseys and the baseball caps. And it was cool. He had a white tee on. He interviewed good. He answered the questions, and the other people that were on video, you know, supervised managers, they were texting like, you know, you see what this guy is wearing or whatever. I'm not saying it's right, but it happens. Everything happens. You know, and I'm like, damn, I'm like, it was already too late. And I swear I wanted to call that kid after, and I wanted to be like, look, you know, you're not getting a job. But can I tell you something? But I didn't need him calling back going, I'm going to sue the company because, you know, but I really, like, I was talking to this kid in my head, like, man, come on, like, you know. So, no. So it's fortunate when you have people that will talk to you and prepare you, like your parents. You going for a job, your mom might be like, you know, you should buy a shirt, or you want me to take you and buy a shirt or whatever, you know. You doing a remote interview, you know, you can stay in your pajamas, but, you know, look nice from the chest up.
Can it really be things as little as not wearing a tie to make you lose a job?
It could be as little as things like that, and things, you know, you would consider, you know, oh man, you didn't give me a job because of that. And 99% of the time, you'll never know. You know, you and him could interview for the job, and, you know, they say discrimination and things like that. But if they don't tell you, I didn't hire you because you were Spanish or black or white or whatever, you never know. And you can't accuse them of something that you didn't know. So why take the chance? You know, and I will ask you this question. Do you think that something like that could hinder you? Again, back then ties it was a thing. So I wasn't properly dressed according to him and his standards and who he was, you know, his character. Me personally, if I felt you were qualified and we needed people, maybe I would have hired you and then told you on the side, like, look, you interviewed, did it up. But not everybody is going to do that for you. You know, that's not how life works. So it's unfortunate, but yes, you can not get something or benefit from something in life because of the way you're dressed or the way that you speak. And it is unfortunate, but it's a fact of life that you have to prepare yourself for. You might be applying for a supervisor position. In your mind, you're thinking, wow, if I get this job, I research this company, or I have friends that work there and they told me how things are. I can already think of some things that I want to change. So by putting a tie on, you get your foot in the door. Now you could be the change, but you got to get your foot in the door, you know. Yeah.
What are some, like, besides the dress code and all that stuff, what do you think is the second most common mistake that people make when they walk into an interview?
Second common thing they walking into an interview. Here's another thing is, you guys are both applying for the job. Like, you got to do things separate. Like, we've seen a room full of people applying, and that's my buddy, that's my best friend, and you're like, yeah, my best friend Johnny is applying for the same position. So do you want, like, both of you need a job? I want me to get the job more than I want you to get the job, you know. So try to be independent, you know. That happened. Like, two friends interviewed, and she was like, oh, I think you guys are interviewing my friend at 3:00. You know what I mean? Like you telling me this? Like, now you're giving the torch to your friend. So you gotta learn how to be independent too. So that's another thing and I've seen it happen a lot. You know, never let your left hand know what your right hand's doing. You know, hey guys, everybody on the block, so and so's hiring. Now you just cut your odds down. You know, by telling everybody to come apply for the same position. So, you know, sometimes you gotta be a little covert. Things that stand out to me, you know, I'm not going to say negatively, but things that stand out that would make me not want to, you know, hire somebody too is, you know, your verbal skills. You know, it's everything I'm saying here is unfortunate, you know, but, you know, you can't go to an interview and be like, you know, I mean, I'm saying, you know, like my last job, they was getting on my nerves, yo. So I you know, I had to get up out of there. Or even if you know, my last job, I didn't really like my boss. You know, she was always riding me all the time. You know, if I came back from lunch late, she would get really, really mad at me. And I just got so sick of it and I left, you know. So really, you know, don't reveal too much about yourself. You know, we might ask, you know, so tell me, that's another thing. When you go to an interview, sometimes they say, the first thing out of their mouth is, so, you know, Adrian, you know, tell me a little about yourself. This is something I personally think too, that write down things about yourself that you feel they're going to ask you want to talk about that are positive things. You know what I mean? Don't talk about how you used to get in trouble when you was a kid. And I start listening to my mom now. Now I clean my act up. Like, don't reveal too much about yourself. Just say what you think you need to say to get the job. Fake it till you make it. Honestly, make something up. It just don't make something up that now you have to live up to what you said, because you're trying to get the job. So don't reveal too much. Do not bash the company that you used to work for, because they could also take that as you being a bad employee. Or it might have been like that, but you said it in the wrong way, and you came off as if you were the problem. Or you might not have been the problem. Some people in management just don't like to hear people complaining, period. So don't talk about how they used to treat you in your last job. Even if you left, it got to a point where I was looking for growth and it just wasn't growth there. Or it got to a point where it just wasn't the right fit for me, and I was looking for just something different. I researched this field, and this is something I really feel like I could grow in, and I want to learn too. Bring that up, the fact that I also want to learn, what it is, more about what it is that you guys do here. What's your? Here's another thing that they ask. Tell me what your 30-day, 60-day, and 90-day plan is. A lot of interviews will ask you that towards the end too. So you gotta, you can't say, well, in 60 days I want to still be here. 90 days I still want to be here. Well, the first 30 days, I want to be trained, whatever type of training that you have. I want to learn the company. I want to learn how to do the job that you are going to hire me for. And my 60 days, I want to actually implement the skills that you taught me, that I learned. And as the time goes by, I want to sharpen myself, and I want to get better and better. And how do you plan on doing that? Well, resources within the organization, possibly being mentored by my supervisor or team leads or employees that have been in this organization for an extended period of time. I want to learn from them. I want to learn from you. So in that next 60 days, I just want to learn and I want to grow in this position. And in 90 days, I want to be to a point where I need as minimum assistance as possible, to the point where I'm one of those guys that are already here, and now you've moved on to training in 30, 60, 90 day and somebody else. Okay, Adrian. Okay. So prepare yourself for the 30, 60, 90 day question, and don't be so negative about your last job. The job might have sucked, but they're paying attention. You're interviewed by a couple of people, somebody might be over paying attention to you, and if you're rooting for me and I don't know it, and you're not, I want to project myself in such a way that when I get off this interview, off this phone in front of you, you're going to fight for me, even though I'm not around.
Is it more of a way of what you say and how you say it?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. There's 10 different ways to say the same thing. I could tell you, I could be like, yo, I don't like that shirt, man. Like, that shirt is, or I could say, wow, that it's nice. Like, green is really not my color. There's so many ways to say the same thing.
Because I'll see people be like, oh, so why do you want the job? Oh, I just need money.
No.
Or they'll be like, honestly, I don't even know how they would say it, but it's just, I saw an example of it. I don't know the exact way they said it, but it was so articulate the way they said it. It was like, damn, I guess they really do need the job. Yes. It's like they just don't want it just for money, even though I know that.
They said the same thing, but they explained the fact that they need the money in such a way that it made you feel like,
exactly.
Okay, well, he needs the money, but he also is planning on doing this, this, and this. So yeah, there's so many ways to say the same thing in a relationship. You could say something to your girl, your man, your wife, husband, how you like the steak? It was a little dry, but I ate it, Or you could say, wow, it was really good, maybe next time, like, don't use so much salt, but wow, it's almost like I like salt, but the doctor said I have to watch my health, so so you there's so many ways to say the same thing. And if you practice on your friends, practice on, like, you and Adrian, y'all are cool, practice saying things to him that might make him want to punch you in your face, and say the same thing that he'd be like, okay, just like, there's so many ways to say the same thing. And in life, you got to learn how to say things. People take you serious based off what comes out of your mouth. we're not just talking about a job. We're talking about a lot of other things too. There's so many ways to say the same thing. Choose the right way to say it. You know, because I need money. Yeah, you're here because you need money. Of course, if I didn't need money, you know, I'd be home all day long. So find the right way to say it. And that's something you can ask your parents. I'll tell you, when I asked you to clean your room, the response is, you know, it made me want to smack you. You know, you could have said this. So, yes. Again, things that aren't necessarily fair, because the right answer, the blunt right answer is because I need a job. You know, mom told me I got 30 days to find a job, or I got to stay with my aunt, you know, or something like that. Or she's sending me, you know, back to DR for a couple of months. So find the right way to say it. Mm-hmm. You will avoid a lot of confrontations and arguments and just different things in life.
For me personally, because I always struggle when they ask me this question.
Yeah.
How do you categorize your strengths and weaknesses? How would you answer that properly?
When you explain your weaknesses, I personally, I would start off with my weaknesses, and I would move up to my, my strengths, because whatever your weaknesses are, you know, you want to move on to something positive. You don't want to end in a negative. You want to start with the negative, and you want to end with the positive. So you can explain your weaknesses in such a way that, you know, tell me, what are your weaknesses? Well, a lot of times in customer service, I put too much emotion like into like believing everything the customer says, and I want to help them with everything. I want to give them everything they want, but I realize that you want to help the customer, but you can only do what you can do within the organization. So overreaching my hand just because, you know, I'm a kind person, so that's something I need to work on. Well, that's not a bad thing. You know, I'm nice to the customers. You know, something like that could be like a weakness that's not too bad. You know, don't explain your weaknesses in a way to make people go, damn.
It's more of explain your weaknesses in the form of a positive.
Exactly.
Because I'll be like, I always tell people my problem is delegation.
Yes.
I like to do everything myself because I know I can do it right.
Yes.
But that's also a problem if you're in a team setting.
Perfect example too. That's a perfect example. Another question they ask is, you know, do you like working with a team, or do you like working by yourself? You know, so we all want to work by ourselves. You know, leave me alone and let me do my job. Mm-hmm. But to necessarily say that, make it look like that you don't play well with others on the playground. Mm-hmm. You know, so well, I can work as an individual if I have to, and in times there were times where I actually had to be an individual and you know, work on a project and you know. However, when I work as a team, you know, I can work as a team as well. You know, well, what do you mean by that? Well, you know, listening to what everybody says, letting everybody put their ideas on the table, coming up with the right solution, seeing how I can help the person next to me, you know, achieve this project goal, and seeing what they can do to help me, finding what the strengths and weaknesses are so that we can all make sure that we're handling this the right way. It's almost like being a team lead. And in their mind, they're like, well, he's explaining working as a team, but he also sounds like a leader too. Mm-hmm. Learn how to explain your weaknesses to almost sound like strengths. Don't overdo it, because then they're going to be like, all right, well, that all sounds like a strength. What are your weaknesses? So find a way to explain your weaknesses. Start off with the negative and end with the positive, because now you're on to what your strengths are. And your strength could be, my strengths are, I can work as an individual or I can work as a team. You know, the goal is to get the assignment completed in a timely manner and in the way that it was explained to me. I may have been asked to do something as an individual, but I also may need to reach out to a team to get the right answers, you know. Mm-hmm. Another thing that's important when you have the job is networking, you know. Mm-hmm. Communicate with people in other departments. You know, on my job, part of my come up is learning how to do things in marketing, learning how to do things in product planning, product development, product design, accounting, finance, learning how to do these things. We implemented a new program called SAP, and there was a guy that worked in product planning, and he already knew SAP. He knew it, and he was kind of like a buddy of mine. We went out for drinks with the group a couple of times, so I went to him on some free time, and I'm like, I want you to show me what this SAP is. And he started showing me things in SAP and simples and shortcuts, and when we started training for it, it gave me such an advantage of him showing me this stuff, because I wasn't just a blank slate. I at least understood the concept of it, so I can understand the different components of how it worked. So I use my my relationship with him to my advantage for knowledge too. So build bridges within other parts of the organization too, because you may work in this department and you may hate it. So next step for me is to leave here and find someplace else, or wow, I really want to go to the product planning department. Over there they sit down and they view the different products and they come up with what's good, what's not, what'll work, what won't, what's the best seller, what's not. I would really like that. So okay, then start making a game plan to get to that next level. Here's another thing is, when you get the job, go to your supervisor and ask him, is there any, if you really, really, really want to, if you just want to do your job and go home, and that's all you really want, then, then do that. But if you want to move up, is there anything else, anything I can help you with? I'd be more than happy to, do some callbacks for you, whatever it is pertaining to the job. Wow, Adrian, he's always coming to me asking me, is there anything that he can do for me? Or if you get a complaining customer, instead of just transferring it to your supervisor, I want a supervisor. If you really want to move up in the company, ask questions, so that when you give it to him, let's say your supervisor's complains, like, you guys are just transferring calls to me, but you give me nothing to go on. I just got a call. Be the guy that goes, hi, Mr. Johnson, or hi, whoever. I have a customer on the line, account number such and such. This is what their concerns are. They actually said that we sent them another product, or we did this and we did that. I went and I looked it up, and I see the other order number here, blah, 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 blah. So when you pass to your supervisor, all right, I see here that, we did resend you another product, but it is, I understand that you got that and that was damaged too. Customers hate it. Customers, accounts, clients, whatever. They hate it when I just explain my life to you. Now you transfer me to a supervisor, and I have to explain my life to him too. Meanwhile, you put me on hold for 5 minutes. What were you doing while I was, over here? So get the information, and you wanna shine in your manager's eye, your supervisor's eye, your team lead's eye. And if you feel like you've done when you leave a job that you wanted to grow in, you want to leave feeling, knowing that I did all that I can do. I've exhausted my resources as far as what I can do to grow in this company. Now it's time for me to leave. You don't want to leave with a regret. Another thing in life, regret is not a good thing. Time is something that you can't get back, and you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Do what you can do to have as little regrets in life as possible. The best mistake to learn is from somebody else. Adrian's messing up. All right, well, I already know what I'm not going to do. Learn from other people's mistakes, because you're going to make enough of your own.
So,
yes,
we got, just to recap everything that we got going on. So we have research, presentation,
yes,
social skills, right? So now that you have all these three things combined, how would you prepare yourself for a question you aren't even prepared for?
I think that preparing yourself for what you have already prepared yourself for, as you're in the interview, you're going to start to build your confidence too. Before I came here, this is my first podcast I've ever done. One thing about me is my one of my weaknesses is public speaking.
Oh, really?
Public speaking is one of my weaknesses. It does not seem that way.
It doesn't.
But on my job, they've sent me to Vegas to speak. They've sent me to Dallas, Houston. I've stayed in the Beverly Hills Hotel, that my job sent me to, and I was in charge of 20 sales reps, 4 customer service reps. I was in charge of all the money that we made, keeping track of how many brands we sold, how much, what free product we're going to give out to the customers. That was my responsibility. And every evening I would have to speak and talk about this stuff. And then they would want me to give a presentation back at home office. And I was deathly afraid of public speaking. And as you like I would like practice, you know, what I was gonna say and things like that, and it just gave me like a little bit more, you know, confidence. And then once I got the mic and I started talking, I would like in my mind I'm like, all right, well you got past the 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes. This is going all right for me. So just like coming here, I was like, oh, in my mind, I'm a little nervous about doing this, but the nervousness went away because we had a little conversation beforehand, and you know, and I shook it off. So, you know, you know, it doesn't seem like it, but public speaking is kind of like my weakness, but it's not something that I'm afraid to tackle because I had to. They're like, you can't have did what you did for the company, did this, did that. You're the only person that has the information to give. You can't say no. That's what I told myself. So I just did it.
Another question I have is, with the conversation we had off camera about your interview before, you came off as a really confident person. How do you come off as just confident and not cocky?
I got high before I got here. No, I'm just playing. You have to believe in yourself, bro. Mm-hmm. If nobody's gonna believe in you like you will believe in you. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of people I could tell you I believe in you, and when I get outside, I'm like, yo, he going to jail or whatever the case may be. Yo, the trial's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be all right. Like, yo, let me start getting some commissary money because I'm gonna have to get him some draws in jail. Like, so you gotta believe in yourself, man. Like, learn your self-worth. When you're young, you don't necessarily know your self-worth. Learn your self-worth. Again, back to surround yourself with people that you can benefit from. You know, even in a relationship, you know, I'm not talking like everything's not about money. So for all you know, people out there that's like, yeah, that's right. You know, you can't be with no broke dude. No, like surround yourself with people that can give you the right knowledge, people that will talk you out of doing, you know, crazy things, you know, and then try to be that person for those people too. So just learn your self-worth as life goes on. You know, you leave a job, feel like I did all I could do and feel good about that. Like I you know, I'm sorry I had to leave that job, and now I was here and my next job is here, but I already researched the company and I know that I can make it here. So I left here because I absolutely had no choice. And if you are going to stay on a job, this is another thing. If you're going to stay on the job that you don't like, because right now life circumstances means you have to, you know, rent is due, car insurance is due, you know, student loans are due, whatever the case may be. Use them just like they use you. You know, when you go on a job, I don't know if you realize this, but they could fire you. They could fire you at, you know, a moment's notice. They don't have to give you a heads up that they're going to terminate you. As long as they have a reason to fire you, they do. But if you don't give 2 weeks notice, they frown on you. And I'm not going to lie, I always thought that was unfair. Yeah, in a management position, if everybody just quit the same day, you'd have nobody to work for you. I get it, but why is it that we expect you to give us 2 weeks notice, but you could just walk in one day and we could just let you go and fire you? Money cut off, insurance cut off, everything.
I think it's more of like a respect thing. Like if you know that the job is respecting you, you'd be able to respect them enough to give them a 2 week notice.
Well, it's the right thing to do, and it's giving 2 weeks notice is building you know, character. It's doing the right thing. You know what I mean?
Even if like, would you respect somebody if they was to, let's say that they're not very much being treated properly in the company, and you know, if it was the other way around, they'd be fired in moment's notice. Would you think it'd be appropriate for them to just quit on the spot?
It depends, because I've seen situations where a person, in my opinion, they rightfully quit on the spot because they just couldn't take what was going on. You know, maybe they might work in another area of the same section of the office I'm in, and I've seen people get treated a certain way, you know, singled out or not being treated a certain way because maybe the supervisor was kind of like buddy. That's another fact of life sometimes, and they just quit. And I've seen it. So there are situations where I feel like if it's really like messing you up to the point where you can't take it another day, if that was one of your family members and you knew that they were on the verge of a mental breakdown at work, you'd be like, you have to leave that place. You know what I mean? Because for your sanity. But if you are going to stay and they're not treating you to a point where you feel like, you know, you need meds, use them. Meaning the knowledge. Learn everything you can learn. So when you go somewhere else, when you go to another job, when you go on a job interview and they ask you about your last job, they don't want to hear all the bad things about your boss, your supervisor. They want to hear what you did. So learn things that could help you in the next job. You know, that's something I did when I was younger. I was younger, and I was like, I want to work in an office. You know, I don't want to work construction, this and this. So I started getting office jobs in the very, very, very beginning, even if they were like just like stupid office jobs, because I was preparing myself for the type of atmosphere I wanted to be in as I got older. You know, in corporate America or in the office, I didn't want to work outside. It's just the way it is. So every job I learned what I could learn. So when I went there, they didn't know that it was a crap ass job, you know, in a basement somewhere. But I explained it in such a way that they felt like, damn, I would like to work there. Are they hiring? You know, so just find the right way to explain it. There's so many ways to say the same thing, and you don't necessarily have to be a liar. You just have to find the right way to explain it so that they take you serious.
Let me ask you a question. Do you appreciate people after the interview process? Let's say you hired them already. Do you appreciate them coming up to you, asking them to rate how their interview went?
Absolutely. When you get, like on my job, what we do is once a month, we give everybody their scorecard. All right, because my department is based on KPI, key performance indicator, and we go by how many incoming calls came in for the entire department, and how many incoming calls they took as an individual. How many of this, how many of that, how many of this, how many of that. So when the people that report to me, the supervisors, meet with their people, I don't just expect them to tell them what they did wrong. I expect them to receive feedback from the employee too. So yeah, I can respect people who actually want to know what they're doing wrong, or saying how am I doing as an employee. Don't come up to me saying I want this when you haven't done anything. Come up to me and first ask me how you're doing. How would I rate you? Ask me my opinion on what you can do to become a stronger employee and a better employee. And then when I see you doing what I asked you to do, that goes a long way. So actually asking what you're doing wrong it's actually a good thing, and it helps you stand out in a good way. You know, if you're somebody that you think you're right all the time, you know, they're going to think that, you know, you're cocky or whatever the case may be, and that's fine. But you could be the star player on the team, in the department, but you still come and you start asking, you know, to rate you. Guess what? When the other department is hiring, the first thing they do is they come to management. You might talk to somebody and they may say, you know, yeah, we're hiring. You may talk to the supervisor in that department. Oh, I would love to have you guys. I would love to have you come here. But he's still coming to the manager. He's still coming to the supervisor. And it's them that decides to parole you and release you, you know, from that department. Mm-hmm. So, yes, ask what you're doing wrong. Ask what you could do better. Ask to be rated. If you get some type of KPI that shows your rating, ask them to explain it. You don't have to be the guy that says, you know, officer, why'd you pull me over? Like, what did I, like, you know, like there's even a way when a cop pulls you over to ask why he pulled you over, to not piss him off, depending on the type of police officer he is. Mm-hmm. So learn how to ask things the right way. You can ask for help the right way. You don't have to come asking, you know, like, oh my God, this place is so messed up, I need help, you know, because then you look weak, you know. But you can explain what you've already done, and again, bring up some negatives and bring up some positives, and then talk about how you need help. There's so many ways to say, you know, the same thing.
Do you appreciate that only if, like, after they get hired, or would it be okay if somebody, after the interview is over and they just stop you and they're like, wait, hang on, before you go, is it okay if I ask you?
I appreciate that too. And that's actually, believe it or not, it may be a small percentage, but that percentage, if you asking how you did, you know, makes a difference, because those are all little things. When it comes down to the wire and you guys both interviewed and wow, this is a tough one, then you start dissecting little small things too. And the little, you know, like, wow, what he did, you know, he asked, you know, how he was doing, you know, or he asked, you know, here's another thing is when they say, all right, you know, do you have any questions for us? Ask the supervisor or the manager or the interviewing person, how long have you been with the organization? Make them talk about themselves, but in a good way, you know. How long have you been here? Well, you know, 15 years. Well, you know, what is it about this place that you know keeps you here for 15 years? You know, and it gets them a chance to talk about themselves for a minute and boast about their come up. And believe it or not, it's almost like a mind game. Then they're gonna like, wow, I really liked him. He cared about what I thought or what I felt. You know what I mean? So asking questions after the interview, I would say try your best to wait until the end to ask the questions, because the manager, the supervisor took their time to put questions together based on your resume. So give them an opportunity, unless they ask you something during the interview, or it is an absolute must that you ask this question. So write down your questions, before the interview starts, of things that you could possibly want to ask. And as many what I do is, when I interview somebody, I have about 25 to 30 questions. And what I do on my spreadsheet is I highlight the ones that I'm absolutely going to ask. And the ones that, well, you answer this question, I don't need to answer that, I turn it another color, or I might change it black so I don't ask it again. And that's how I keep track of what I asked you and what I don't need to ask you. And if you answer this right, I may have another question for you. But if you didn't answer this right, I don't even need to ask you the other question. You do the same thing. Write down a list of things that you want to ask. And if they already answered it during the interview, then I don't need to ask that. You might be left with 3 questions. But, ask about, don't necessarily say, well, how much does this job pay again? Ask about the benefits. Ask about company growth. That's a good question to ask to make them feel like you do want to come here and you want to work hard. Ask them about growth. Is there growth opportunity here? Don't get into that department when you're interviewing for this department, but just focus on the department that you're in. So make a list of questions, and it is perfectly okay to ask your boss, your supervisor, to rate you on how you're doing when you already have the job. It's a good thing, and it puts you in a good spotlight to ask those questions. And again, you can ask what you're doing in a way to make them think like, well, you making me think like I think I'm bothering you the way you're asking me. Is anything you're doing? It almost sounds like I'm doing everything I can do and you're still messing with me. So what is it? No. But find the right way to ask the questions.
That was great. That was amazing. So now we've come to this time of the podcast where we want to ask you 5 questions. Answer them as long as short. It could be rapid fire, however you want to do it. These are just 5 questions we want to start implementing at the end of every podcast.
You couldn't let me know this before?
Nah, because I forgot that we debuted this on a different podcast, but it didn't come out because we had to fix the cameras or whatever. And I just remembered that this is the debut of those 5 questions is right now. So this is called K&A Quick Takes.
Matt.
And we're going to ask you 5 questions.
You want to ask the first one?
Yeah. So, what is the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice that I've ever received? It's better to shut up and be thought of as an idiot than to open your mouth and let it be known. Sometimes you need to just be quiet and listen. Don't be Mr. Know-It-All. Better to shut up and be thought of as an idiot than to open your mouth and let it be known. And if you can't figure out what that means, then you might be the idiot. I'm just kidding.
All right, number 2. What do you believe is your current purpose? Whether that means life, job, however you perceive that question.
My to be the best person that I can be, to take care of my family. I recently got married, to be a good husband, to be a good father. My daughter, she doesn't hesitate to tell me what kind of a father she feels I am. And that makes me feel good. And it makes me want to continue to be the person that I am. My grandmother's 93 years old, and I do my best to take care of her. So continue to be a good person, to continue to be an honorable person, and to take care of my family. When I lay my head on the pillow at night, I want to sleep good. Don't do things that keep me up at night, keep restless about my character as a person, as a man.
Third question is, can you share a pivotal moment in your life that changed your perspective?
Well, you all in my business. My daughter being born. I was a knucklehead. I was a responsible knucklehead, but I was a knucklehead prior to my daughter being born. My list of priorities, what was most important to me was up here, and what was least important is down here. And when my daughter was born and life slapped me upside my head, the priority started to shift. And you guys will find that too. When you're younger, what's most important to you, no, I gotta look fly. I gotta, it's fine because it's what's supposed to be important to you at a young age. Unless, you're living a hard knock life and you have to hit the ground running and you have to be more responsible than the average young person your age. Otherwise, yes.
Number 4, if you could pass on one piece of information to the next generation, what would it be?
Old people aren't crazy. Listen to what they're saying to you. They you might not like what they're saying and you might not understand their come across, but there's something in there that makes sense. They lived a life. I've been where you're going, So listen to what an older person has to say, because it might not make sense to you. Sometimes somebody tells you something and they're right. But this is what I want to do. So I have to do what my young mind is telling me to do. And then later on you realize, like, damn, they were right. So just listen to what an older person has to say, as long as they're making sense. Don't listen to the homeless guy talking to himself on the corner, but listen to what somebody older has to say, because that's part of the knowledge that I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. When you ask me, a saying, I didn't get that. Like, I learned that from somebody, I didn't just make that up on my own. I actually learned that, shut up and be thought of as. My father taught me that. And it's something that I don't always say, but when it's necessary, I'll bring it up. I mean, I have a lot of sayings that will stop you in your tracks. And by the time you realize that I just clowned you, I'm already in my car and gone, because it took you that long to process it, because you didn't obtain knowledge to make you think faster as you were growing up. So now, but yes.
Last one is, what advice would you give to someone who feels they haven't found their purpose?
Don't worry about it. You will find your purpose. As long as you woke up today, every day is the first day of the rest of your life. Every day. Yesterday's gone. Some people find their purpose later in life. Some people get famous as adults. Look at the woman in the Olympics that did that breakdancing bullshit. In 5 years, she may be something special. So just because you fall doesn't mean that you can't get back up and keep moving. So, every day is the first day of the rest of your life. You will find your purpose. But once you start, the fact that you start thinking, I need to find my purpose, you've already begun. But when you don't even think about your purpose, what are you going to do? But when you start realizing that I have to find a purpose, that's an accomplishment, that you want purpose. So then you start finding your purpose. And if you feel like you didn't find enough of your purpose today, tomorrow's a new day.
I really like your answers, to the point where I want to ask you the bonus question. This was only if you wasn't able to answer the last question. But what was the most valuable failure that you've experienced, and what did it teach you?
The most valuable failure. Realizing that my most valuable failure based on my life is realizing that everybody that you think is your friend is not your friend. Mm-hmm. And as you get older, you have to start shedding some dead weight. And that's a fact. Right now, how old are you?
23 now.
Okay, 23. Are you friends with all the same people that you were since you were in middle school and grammar school, every single one of them? Or have there been some friends that you had that might not necessarily be there anymore? And if the answer is no, I'm still cool with them, as life goes on, you realize that you're going to have to start shedding some dead weight, period, point blank. Mm-hmm. Recognizing what the dead weight is before it's too late, or before so much damage has been done that I got rid of this person, but now I gotta fix myself up. Listen to good advice. Don't be afraid to shed the dead weight. You know what I mean? Because in order for you to find, you're finding your purpose. You're not finding his purpose. He may watch you, and watching you may help him find his purpose. But his purpose is his purpose, and your purpose is your purpose. You guys have this podcast, and you guys have a mission statement. There's a goal that you're trying to accomplish. Right now, it may be just reaching people, but it may become something else. But if he starts showing late for the podcast, and he's not coming in here, or he starts getting strange dudes off the street, to like as like fluff and filler, you're like, man, we had a goal here, and blah 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 blah, and it comes to a point where you have to cut the cord, and it's a hard thing. It's not as easy as I make it sound, but sometimes you got to cut family members, you got to cut friends, you have to cut relationships, because it's your state of mind and it's your peace of mind at the end of the day.
That was amazing.
That was great.
It was.
That was great. That was amazing.
Guys, I want to thank you for having me on here.
We want to thank you for coming. It was very, very informative.
Okay.
Very good. But be careful. If y'all interviewing with Greg, make sure y'all use all the tips that he said.
I don't interview for free no more. Yesterday's price is not today's price.
What's your fee going forward?
I have to evaluate my worth. You know, my financial advisor, my wife, is upstairs, so, you know.
After the pod, how much are going up?
I don't know, but, you know, I will give you guys a discount, and I don't usually work on credit, but I'll put you guys in my back pocket. It's always good to have somebody owing you, you know what I mean? But guys, this was my pleasure. I'd be happy to do this anytime you want it, and I would never charge you anything, because that's my family right there.
Appreciate that, brother. Same
Right.
Oh, it's been great. It's been amazing.
Ta-da.
This has been the K&A podcast. All right, let's go.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. What happened?
Just waiting.
4?
Just.
He's on such like a high of this podcast.
He's just
like,
so excited to be on.
See you later.